Welcome to Feeding Our Young podcast. Have you ever heard the phrase, nurses eat their young? Feeding Our Young is more than a podcast. It's a movement. It's a desire to see new nurses of all ages be supported and uplifted by their peers. And it starts with me. It starts with you. So join host Eric Miller, registered nurse of nearly 20 years, an adjunct clinical instructor, and today's honored guest, me, Izzie Wilkes. And be ready to have your life uplifted so you can, in turn, uplift others. Welcome to Feeding Our Young podcast.
And we're back. I gave Izzie the appropriate amount of time, a good 5 minutes, to figure out what else she wanted to say. I'm just kidding. We only do two-parters if we know there's enough to fill a two-parter, and Izzie's got more than plenty. So for those that missed the first episode, double back, catch the first episode of Izzie Wilkes, so that you know the meaning behind what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
What excites me the most about this episode of the Feeding Our Young podcast is that I am sitting with our very first honored guest who was never born. So I absolutely love it. I can now say I have hosted an episode with someone who's never been born and let people figure that one out on their own.
Oh
right.
My goodness.
Izzie, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great.
Great. Person who's never been born, but here you are alive and well and so grateful. And to reassure anyone who might be a little afraid, no worries, she's not dead. She's not a ghost. I have not figured out a new niche of podcasting. So we're calling out the spirits of, no, okay.
Oh
I'm going
gosh.
too far. I'm going too far. Reel it back in. Ladies and gentlemen, Izzie Wilkes. Izzie Wilkes, how are you this fine?
Oh, fabulous. How are you?
I am great, thank you. I get to live the dream. People are like, in fact, so we at Gonzaga, we had a full day BSN orientation thing yesterday.
Oh, and, yeah, you guys are starting up.
Oh, it's so amazing. And it was, my second one. And I've had more than one person on occasion say, and someone there, oh, Eric, man, how was your summer? What was it like not having your second job that you had to worry about, teaching students?
I just got a third job. No big deal.
I said, well, I was so apparently lonely without it that I created this entirely vastly more busy third job. But it's a passion project. I can't help it. It's just been amazing. So literally today, I see your name pop up. I got Jen's name on. I've got tonight's guest.
I have a brilliant idea. I just think that we should do an episode where Jen and I interview you. Yeah.
That's the 12-hour episode we were talking about.
How fantastic would that be?
Oh,
I'm like, you've got things you need to say. You've got things to say.
Okay, I'm game. If you're game, we're gonna. That's it. Jen has no idea what she's getting roped into.
Nope, no clue. No clue.
And we can bring in as many people on this as we want. So yeah, that'll be fun. This will be fun. Yeah. Okay. That's a level of vulnerability I got to prepare myself for. Yeah, I like being in the question asking chair.
Let's put you in the hot seat. Let's see how you like it.
All right. Okay. So done. I love it. Okay. Oh boy. All right. Well, I'm definitely not distracted now. Let's stay on focus. Gosh, Izzie, it's a shame that this episode had to be cut so short. It's been great working with you. I'm sure your other episode will air someday. You and Jen's both. Okay. All right. Let's hit the easy stuff. The easy stuff. Why did you want to become a nurse?
Oh gosh, why did I want to become a nurse? Great question. As I buy time.
Yes.
I was always fascinated as a kid with childbirth. When, moms in our community would come home with their baby, I always want to know how are they born? How did this happen? And part of that was because my mom had such an interesting delivery story with me. Like we talked about last episode, she did a home
Check
birth.
that episode.
Right? We won't go into that. Again, not approved by any obstetrical governing body anywhere. Just going to preface with that. If it was not approved.
And we've already established that you weren't born. Oh my goodness, how did this happen?
Right.
And no, Izzie is not the first person to be pooped out of a mom. Using kids vernacular, oh, you pooped a baby. Yeah, no, that's
like,
not
how did
quite
that
how
happen?
Yeah.
The other baby came out of the sunroof. I don't understand. Things like that. So
exactly.
was always fascinated with that. And then my grandma, my mother's mother, was 13 when she had my mom, which when you hear that story as a little kid, you think that's pretty young to have a baby. So I was really fascinated with that. And I think part of the reason what interested me and one of the many motivating factors to be a labor and delivery nurse was hearing my grandmother's story of when she went in to have my mom, how it was, it was, the 1960s in Stockton, California. And my grandma was a young Filipino girl and she was terribly mistreated in the hospital by the nurses as she's having my mom. And I just remember thinking like, gosh, I never want anybody to feel that way when they go in to have a baby. That hurts my heart to hear the story. And so that actually motivates me. And some of my favorite patients that I get to work with are teen moms. And I just go in and I give them extra love, extra time. Maybe I pamper them a little too much. I don't know. But I want those girls to know that they are loved and valued and, things are hard for a time, but they can get better. And I remember at one point telling my grandma, after I became a nurse, that they are, teen moms are my favorite patients. And coming out of that conversation with her, I realized, I need to tell these teen moms that they were my favorite patients and maybe a little bit as to why. So I started incorporating that into my practice lately. Had a teen mom the other day and she was in a more ideal situation. She had a supportive partner with her. And I sat down with them. We were working on latching baby to breast and improving breastfeeding for her before I discharged her home. And it got kind of quiet in the room. And I'm like, okay, this must be my opportunity. And I, told her, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know that, teen moms are my favorite patients. And she asked me why. And I said, well, my grandma was one and life was hard for a time, but things do get better. And I said, in all honesty, teen moms can do anything. Yeah. I was like, I've met teen moms where I go in to do vitals and they're breastfeeding baby at the same time doing their math homework and eating dinner at the same time and doing 5 tasks at once effortlessly. And I'm like, I want them to know, I'm like, if you want to continue going to school, there's resources for that. If you want to go to college, there's resources for that. You have this beautiful baby in your arms and that is wonderful. And there's going to be challenges with that. But I want you to know that you can do this and you are incredible. And I think since I've been doing that, I'm like, okay, now I knew my mission as a nurse and now I'm also, telling my patient population what my mission is. And maybe that'll uplift somebody. I don't know. We'll see.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Maybe I'll get Izzie as a middle name out of the deal. I don't know.
That's it. Go back to the first episode. We're getting middle names all over the place. No, and you say that, and I don't know if this will make the cut because what I say doesn't further the conversation. I cut it. I cut more than whatever I say than I've ever done for any honored guest. But just this, literally 2 days ago, I finished caring for this loving. And I love all the families I get, and there's all different types. I have a motto that I tell my students, and that is that it takes all types of people to make the world go round. And the second part of that is proven to me every single day I live and breathe. And so I just love everybody. And what I tell my moms, and I'm very careful about this, I tell, if it's the right situation, if it's the right whatever, and they won't take it the wrong way, and whatever the case may be. Because I, flat out, number one, my wife is the most beautiful woman on the planet. There's nobody that comes close to her. And I know that there are others that have this other perspective of I've
met her. She's pretty dang gorgeous.
Big deal. The hashtag married up thing, that doesn't even, it's so far above and beyond. Anyway. No, legitimately. You know what I mean? I was like, we always... We joked that if we ever made a book about our marriage, it'd be called The Nerd and the Princess. To which some people are like, I don't think your wife was that nerdy. But... thank you. But the whole point of that, I'm digressing. The point is she's absolutely beautiful inside and out and all the things. And there's some marriages, where it's like, no, they acknowledge that there's other pretty women or other handsome men and that sort of thing. And she's, she's got her own celebrity crushes. She's got her own list. I get that. But for me, that doesn't work for me. For me, it's like, it's my wife and then everybody else. And that's no apologies to anyone I've ever known, because they know me. And they know that I love you as a human being. I love how, and everybody, I find beauty in everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care what the thing. And sometimes, I just tell people, sometimes we have to look a little deeper or a little harder to find that beauty. But everybody's got beauty about them. And so, but I tell some of my moms, like you're saying, can you pamper them enough? I don't think you can. There was a family and the grandma's like, well, I'd take a picture of us all together, but you're in the bed and that sort of thing. And the mom says something to the effect of, well, yeah, and, let's wait until I get home and I can look a little more pretty, I don't remember what the word she used, that sort of thing. Because any woman who's been there in childbirth, like they just feel at the you're bloated, you're bleeding, you're all these things, you're sweating, you're peeing a lot, you're all the things, right? And all I said was, I was like, well, I mean, to be fair, I'm like, you know what I mean? There is, I feel like in a woman's life, there is no moment more beautiful than, oh gosh, here we go. Than having another human being, you know what I mean? To deliver, and apologies to those who can't or who have tried and who've struggled and all the things. That doesn't mean you can't attain a level of beauty, but there's nothing more beautiful in a woman's life than having children, because like, that is like, you can be, I don't care if your hair is all over the place, all the things. You have just done a miracle. You've taken part in a miracle that even we guys, we can't come close. We can't come close. So anyway, that was a really long story that really is going to get edited or cut out altogether.
I can relate. I can relate when I have mom, baby comes out, is doing skin to skin with mom. And, we're waiting for placenta. We're waiting for her repair to be done. I ask if I can borrow a phone to take some photos. And some families don't even hesitate. Oh, yeah, please take some photos. And I get some other moms who are like, no, I just don't look right, yada, yada. I'm like, honey, this is going in your baby's baby book, maybe. This is, I think I made a joke once. I'm like, we don't know what we're going to look back in 5 years. We might look back and think we look pretty darn good in this moment, sweetie. Let's just do some photos. We can take some more later. I was like, this is for your baby. Just do this for your baby.
That's yeah. I like that line. Are you okay if I borrow that line?
Go for it. Put it on a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt. So, all right. So with that and knowing why you became a nurse, kind of your story that we've built upon this entire time, what is it that you personally, and you can answer this from the perspective of nursing student Izzie and nursing instructor Izzie, but what do you love most about nursing and nursing school?
Oh, okay, nursing school was hard. I loved the transformation of nursing school because I think I started out as one person. And by the time I ended, I was a different person, which was good. There was a lot of self-growth that happened. There was confidence that happened within nursing school, professionally, personally, wonderful things like that. I think, gaining the confidence to have a voice, which I think I didn't have one for so long in nursing school. And actually Mike Ediger, the man who got me into health sciences, and now I get to work with him at Whitworth. I've teased him before because when he first met me, I was so quiet. I didn't talk much. And now he just laughs at me every time we meet. I'm chatty. I make people laugh. Sometimes I'm referred to as the funny nurse by patients. And I'm like, which one are you talking about? I don't know. I'm like, I do the same 5 jokes during labor. Fortunately, it's the first time the patients are hearing it.
No, wait, hold on. Okay, no, I'm pausing you here.
What?
Give us a couple of those jokes.
Oh, gosh. Like when a mom's pushing and, and the baby, like things are... The labia are, we're on a medical podcast, I can say this. The labia are parting. You start to see a little bit of baby's head. We're not crowning yet.
A little bit. Oh, not crowning yet. Okay, so just seeing the head. Okay.
Just seeing the head, and you can see the hair color, and you see these parents are so excited. What color hair does the baby have? And without a doubt, every time I go, oh, it's red. And sometimes you get this ecstatic look in their faces, but more often than not, it's, oh. And I'm like... oh, come on, guys. No, so that's one of my go-tos. And, just when I love admitting patients, I love doing, admitting the evening induction or the morning C-section because I get to talk to them. I get to run through all the education with them and, get to tell them what it's going to be like. And, oh gosh, what jokes I do, I don't know what it is, but I swear almost every time I do an IV start, patients like, you've been doing this for a while, right? And I'm like, honey, you're about to have a baby come out of your vagina and you're worried about the IV start? Like, we got things we got to talk about, girl.
Perspective.
All right. Yeah. And I'm like, you're going to conquer this and then we're going to push out a 10-pound baby. It'll be great. You're going to we're going to conquer a lot of fears in this hospital stay, honey.
Oh. But we all have those go-tos, though. So I'm assuming you're giving permission to students to use this in their OB careers, whatever that whatever that looks like, for however long they're in the OB world. But same here. Like I literally, if it were a percentage, it'd be like 95% of the families I've cared for in 4.5 years. Every time I go to get a temperature on a baby, and anyone can use this, but anytime I go get a temperature on a baby, I always, because and it doesn't matter whether you're anyone who's seen my picture, I am not muscular. I'm not like that typical prototypical male that's very strong and hurting people. But kids, babies, it doesn't matter. I go for that armpit and I turn to the parents and I'm always like, I try to convince them that there's worse places to put it, but they just won't believe me. I say it every time, and sometimes it gets a laugh. Some people are like, yeah, you go for it. Here we are. This is the special episode where we're just exchanging our gags. Right. And then others I've got to be very careful with about this next one, but there are the ones that, I'll do the discharge or whatever they're going to be leaving. And I'm like, now, no pressure or anything, but we'll see you guys in a couple of years, right? And so that's the other, you guys are so lovely. We're going to see you in a couple of years. That's amazing. Okay, enough. Rabbit trail.
No. Along those same lines, I do the whole, I'll see you in 9 months, right? And the dads are like, yeah. And the moms are like, are you kidding me? You shush. Anyway. So
see, and I go the opposite direction. I'm like, we'll see you in a couple of years. I don't want to see you in 10 months. And I literally will say, let that grass grow. I don't know. I probably should drop that part of it because I don't know if that can be construed as being inappropriate. But,
oh my gosh. Okay, the temperature thing though on babies, we have to revisit that for a second. Because I swear, at birth, sometimes parents opt for the delivery medications for babies. 1 or 2 of them are shots. Yeah. And I swear without a doubt, I will get a baby screeching and crying more getting their temperature checked in their armpits versus their injection they just got.
Yeah, 100%.
Without a doubt. And I had one point, the other day I had a dad, did baby's injections, went just fine, hardly a peep out of the kiddo. And then went to take the temperature after the fact, and the baby just wailed, screaming, and then dad was like, come on, nurse. You were gentle with the shots. And I was like, this will be a hallmark the whole stay, I promise you. I was like, I don't know why, but getting your temperature checked hurts more than the shots, clearly. So,
yeah, all of the baby's nerve endings. This must be an anatomical thing. All of their nerve endings are just in their armpits. Yeah. They don't feel anything else. Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness. Okay, so we digressed, and that was fun. Circling it back around to what did you love most about nursing and nursing school?
Okay. Okay, so the transformation in nursing school that was necessary and needed. Yes. And then I will say, I think within there's just transformations at each stage in the nursing career. I got into a nurse residency, thank goodness, on an LDRP unit. And from start, I think within my first year of nursing, that was huge for me. You learn how to talk to a doctor, you learn how to give them a report. And I think that those skills, if you don't have them outside of your nursing career, translate really well. Standing up for yourself, standing up for your patient. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, and the first year of nursing is hard, you guys. I mean, it wasn't easy for me. For those people it's easy for, God bless you. I'm so happy for you. It was not over here. But just that first year, and then, now that I'm 10 years in, I used to, oh gosh, new nurses, do not do what I'm doing. This is what you get when you've been a nurse for 13, however many years.
And we always say, you're either going to learn, everyone will learn from me. And I say, I always learn from my parents. You will always learn from your parents. You will learn you'll learn what to do by either modeling what to do or seeing modeled what not to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I remember your first year of nursing, you're calling the doctor, being very professional, giving them an S-bar, etc. And now it's to the point where I know my doctor so well that I'm like, hey, this is going on. I need this. You can order it or me. Okay, great. Bye. It's just a whole different thing when, your doctors know you and trust you
Yeah.
and your clinical decision making skills, and your field so well, your order set so well. It's fun when I guess we get to a point of comfortability in our careers. Like for me, going to work used to be my first year of nursing. It was anxiety provoking, and I knew I just
Yeah.
had to persevere and get through it because this is what I wanted to do. This is what I felt like I was meant to do. And now I get in the car to go to work and I'm just jamming out, having a great time, having fun. And work is like stress relieving now when I work in one of the, most highly litigated fields of medicine.
Yeah.
So it's fun when again, using that anxiety as a tool, push through. And now it's like, I couldn't imagine my work or career any different. So.
Yeah. That's outstanding. And
Mhm.
I have a hunch you have more to say about that first year of nursing, but and we'll get there. That just the advice you have as far as like when you're new versus like it feels good
Mhm.
building a rapport with others, and you don't always get that. You don't always get that in your
Mhm.
career, whether it's because you've changed or the rotation is always, we deal
Yes.
at Sacred Heart, we deal with a lot of residents, a lot of fellows.
Mhm.
And so you get a new batch, you get used to them, you like them, and they go away, and you get a new batch and you help
Mhm.
train them up. And I don't mean that in any disrespect, but and then, you kind of get to know each other, and then they go away and you do
Yep.
it all over again. So it just depends on where you're at, but it is an amazing feeling. So let's just dive right in.
Mhm.
Why wait? Can we talk about what the first year of being a new nurse is like?
Oh man, do you remember your first year of nursing?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right.
I can't even going straight out of nursing school into peds oncology.
Oh my gosh.
Terrifying. And but I was terrified anyway. And I've mentioned this in a previous episode.
Did you
So,
start in Spokane on Peds Onc, or were you on the west side for Peds Onc?
no, ma'am. It was
Oh,
here. It was all here.
dang.
And that's a whole different story. My wife and I originally moved over here from the Seattle area
Mm-hmm.
to get educated and get back.
Yeah.
And I jokingly called it my 4-year, 2-year degree. And in that
Mhm.
time was when our son's accident happened and our whole life changed and all the things. And in that amount of time, like God has a sense of humor. I don't know what the case is, but we stayed. This was home. And so to end up there and then but no, that first year, man, like, and that's what I was saying. In a previous episode, I did mention that when I interviewed, I told them I was dual interviewing for this role and another role. And I just said, here's the deal. I really want to go into peds oncology. I'm passionate about it, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be terrified no matter what. I'm going to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to learn a lot. It doesn't matter where you put me. I'd rather go through that doing the thing I love the most, but I'll happily go wherever you put me. And so, man, oh gosh, that whole, like, I tell people, like, it takes, I don't care what you're practicing in. I don't care if you're, you hear peds onc, oh, that sounds intimidating, whatever. I don't care what, you can pick whatever the perceived lowest, easiest nursing job is. In that first year, there's a lot of adjustment. You're learning the job all over again, as we've learned from other students, as we've learned from instructors. And it takes a while I knew that I was starting to not get used to it, but at least get better about it when I wasn't going to work with a pit in my stomach every single shift. That's the notification.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
What was the other unit you were interviewing for?
It was peds, but it was like they called it like an RRC or something like that, where they had this very unique, and it didn't last very long, and I could see why.
Was this at Sacred?
Yes, it was at Sacred in 2000 and back when there were slates and horse and buggies and all the things.
Oh my gosh!
No, it feels like forever ago. Mm-hmm. But it was they had this position where you could rotate amongst the Group 3 units as your job. So you would be scheduled for like I think a pay period for like 6 weeks, and you'd be in 3 South or wherever, and then the next 6 weeks you could end up maybe in the PICU or maybe in the peds onc or whatever, in these different Group 3 areas, and it was kind of geared for those that knew they wanted kids or knew they wanted to work in the tower with adults, but not exactly know where. It sounds like it was probably built more for adult world. I can't see how it worked very well in peds world, but it did exist for a little bit. It was a thing. One of my peers got one of those positions out of nursing school, and she ended up having an amazing career and all the things. But it just that's what that was about. So,
oh, way cool.
Yeah, But that and like you said, like that pit in the stomach, like that feeling of being in the car, and like I would go to work early so that I could just take those
Yes.
5-10 minutes in the car, right?
Yep.
Talk about that. Talk about that.
Oh gosh. Okay. So first year of nursing, I get hired into a nurse residency, which I will beat this horse to death. I highly recommend being in a nurse residency, and not all residencies are created equal. I did one where you worked 2 days, 2 to 3 days on the floor, and the fourth day, our whole cohort of 8 brand new nursing grads in labor and delivery met together, and we debriefed on what we saw. Policies, education, and then one of the huge things, it was Evelyn Hickson, shout out to you, lovely lady. She did a lot of like self-care lectures with us, how to maintain mental health through your first year of nursing. If you like to drink alcohol, she said, please consider removing all alcohol from your home for your first year of nursing.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And I wasn't a big drinker, but I was like, you know what, that's a good practice. I can do that. And I'm glad I did that. And she also said, if your thing is snacking, maybe remove certain kinds of snacks from your house for the time being. And she was very clear. Your first year of nursing is going to be hard it's going to challenge your personal life, your professional life, your mental health. But here are some tools to help you with it. And like she set us all up for success. And I think almost all of us are still working in the obstetrics field as a result.
Wow.
But yeah, that first year of nursing, I think I did it was either a 16-week or a 20-week nurse residency. So I had a well-trained nurse holding my hand for those first 3 to 4 months. So I essentially had a wonderful babysitter. I had someone there to make sure I didn't screw up. So, but even though I knew I had that safety net with me for quite a while, I'd still show up to work hour early, sit in my car, praying to calm me down, drinking coffee, so a stimulant, probably a little counterintuitive. Sitting there just trying to calm down because that pit in your stomach. And I think at the time I thought, like, there must be something wrong with me if coming here is so hard. But then I'd get there, I'd get report, and an hour and a half into my shift, I'd be thriving, man. I would be, that anxiety would just melt off. And I'm like, I finally, when I could do an IV start on my own, that confidence level would take a step up. When I could admit a patient on my own, step up. Like that anxiety started to melt away the more I could do more on my own. Yeah. So that was great. And then, after 4 months, you're officially a baby nurse. No one's holding your hand anymore. You're taking assignments on your own. And that pit in your stomach still was there. And I think finally after my 1-year anniversary, showed up to work, and I only had to spend like 2 minutes in my car grabbing my bag, and I didn't have to sit there for the 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was, pumping myself up or having to like pray or just calm myself down before I walked into work. And it's funny, some people I've talked to, they're like, gosh, I would have switched careers after that. And I'm like, no, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I just had to work through this because in my field, I might have a uncomplicated laboring patient, and 30 seconds later might have to race her down to the OR to have a crash C-section. So my field's a little bit different in that regard. I might be casually, doing a cervical exam, and then I feel a prolapsed cord, and then we have to run to the OR. So my field can shift a little bit. And unfortunately, where we're at, we don't, if I have an emergency, I can't press code blue and everybody come. If I have a internal in-unit emergency, we're there to support ourselves, Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't get a float nurse from ER to come up and help us because we're so specialized. It's kind of hard for other units to catch on to what we do unless they've done some training with us. Mm-hmm. So after in hindsight, I think I'm kind of crazy. After 2 years of being at my original job position, I was, looking forward to work. The pit in the stomach was gone, and I was really comfortable. And then this little wonderful voice in my head was like, we need to change it up. You can't be comfortable. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. What's next? I'm like, what is going on? And went off into travel nursing and was uncomfortable with that. But back to the first year of nursing, do you remember getting your first nurse paycheck?
Oh, yeah.
That was a big day for me.
Yeah. And
How
you're
about
like,
you?
It's very validating.
Yes.
It's very like, you know what I mean? This is what I've worked hard for. And it's not even that it's, huge, or it's not the size of it. Mm-hmm. It's now you're like, I have spent so much time. And the joke is, right? Like, hey, students, you all know you're paying to do the things you're doing. And then eventually that flips around where you're getting to be the one that gets paid to do what you're doing. And that right there in the moment, that for me was like, babe, I came home, I was like, here it is. Like, this is, I'm getting paid to do it now. I'm getting paid to do it.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's phenomenal. And for like positions, I don't remember what it was like on peds onc. Were they 12-hour shifts?
Yeah.
I remember at the time I was, working in the Seattle area. A lot of my friends outside of the medical field were working for Amazon or Microsoft. So that was usually a 5-day-a-week position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and working a typical hospital schedule, I was working 3/12s a week. So you have 4 days off typically to kind of like, all right, what am I going to do? Am I going to go hike? Am I going to go shop? Am I going to do self-care? What is this? And I remember at one point wanting to save up to go on a trip and asking one of my friends who was working for a tech company, hey, do you want to go on this trip with me? And they're like, yeah, but I'm going to have to get another job to save up for that. And I just remember thinking, how crummy is that? You work a Monday through Friday job and now you're going to have to get a weekend job.
Yeah.
And in our field, I'm like, I'll just pick up an extra shift this week.
Mm-hmm.
And so granted, we work hard as nurses, but we have the luxury of overtime or extra shifts and things of that nature. One of the things I do with my nursing students is we do a paycheck exercise. I have them, we looked up, we take, I use a lot of union hospitals as an example because their pay rates are very transparent. Yeah. So I have them look at the pay scale. I'm a new grad. This is what I'm going to get. These are hours a week. How do I calculate my shift differential? Because I'm probably going to work night shift, weekend, etc.
You have them do this math.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yes. And the reactions are all across the board.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. So like when I started nursing, I think my base pay in Seattle was $26 an hour.
Yeah.
I think nowadays as a new grad, I think it's close to 50 in Seattle now.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know. And I'm trying to think of what our contract is too. I want to say it's like low 30s. I think it's like
42
40s,
maybe
even up to 40s now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
So I had them, do that, and I had them look at a typical schedule and do their math and add their differentials in. And I have one student on one side of the room going, man, this is great. This is how much I make, for my summer job in total. And then I have another student on the other side of the room going, this is it? And I'm like, oh my word. Yeah. And then on top of that, because something nobody taught me, and I wish I would have known this my first year nursing, is I make them make a budget and I make them look at how much they should put in retirement. Because nobody talked about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Health insurance. How much is that going to cost as a single person versus a family? And and then I am on a soapbox a bit about financial stuff, and I encourage them. I'm like, hey, pick a percentage, and each month take that percentage and put it in savings. And I was like, pretty standard is take the top 10% of your paycheck and throw it in savings like it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Get your retirement automatically going, do your subtraction, and just know that this is what you're going to pocket each month after bills.
Man.
And then we're going to do an exercise where they have to pick which city they want to live in, create their budget, and figure out an apartment to live in. And we're going to math out all that and see what they're left with each month. And just trying to fiscally, emotionally, all the ways prepare them for the field in life when they get to become a nurse and they get to wear that name badge and wear those scrubs. And one of the big things I, wish I did is when I got a nursing job is I wish I would have treated myself. I wish I would have gone out and gotten, the best tennis shoes to feel powerful in, the best compression socks. And so I tell my nursing students, you're getting hired in an era where you will potentially get a signing bonus. I was like, that wasn't a thing for many of us in years past.
Nope.
I mean, gosh, during the pandemic, I think some hospitals do $50,000 sign-on bonuses.
It's insane. Like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, half up front, or you know what I mean, and then a half after X number of years, or divvied up over like 3
Yes.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
Huge. And so I'm telling them, I'm like, if you do that, I'm like, please, put some of it in savings, be responsible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Maybe pay off a chunk of student loans, be fiscally responsible, but then celebrate yourself. And then I was like, get that pair of fig scrubs you've been eyeing and you think is so darn cute. Get those tennis shoes that are going to make you feel prepared and powerful. Get that stethoscope that makes you smile. Like every layer of your being, prepare yourself and feel strong on the floor. Yeah. Do things to help make yourself feel readied from the inside out, from the pit of your stomach know that you're anxious, but you look like a nurse when you hit the floor. You feel like a nurse when you hit the floor. And over time, you're going to be such a badass. Eh, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And something I've been trying to encourage folks to do is, tell me about your experience too. I met so many nurses over the last few years that, they wanted to work on mother baby. That was their, nursing school desire to be a mother baby nurse. But somebody gave them bad advice at one point and said, nope, you need to go work on the med surg tower before a mother baby unit will ever consider you.
Yeah.
This is one that irks me, and I'm like, no, apply for your dream job. You don't know. And they're getting information out there in the community that nope, you have to have adult med surg experience before they'll consider you. And I'm like, no, just apply. I'm like, for some people it's helpful to get a year of med surg under their belt, or they think that students think that they need to do med surg because it'll get them great overall skills before they go into their specialty that they really so desire. But I've been finding that when students leave nursing school with that, they get comfortable in the unit they're on, and they don't want to reapply to a new unit. And that one kind of hurts my heart a little bit. I just want to tell them, like, it's easy to get comfortable, but there's also a lot of self-growth in trying new things or, applying for your dream job. But I'm like, I've met some nurses who, actually my best friend Candace, her whole upbringing in nursing was designed to work in some form of pediatrics. She, volunteered with the Vanessa Behan Crisis Nursery for years. She did her practicum in pediatrics, but, after nursing school, she found that she could not get a peds job whatsoever. And so the only job that she was offered was adult med surg, and she took it. And about a year in, I remember calling her and asking her, I'm like, okay, after a year of working with adults, what are you thinking? And she goes, oh my gosh, I never want to work with kids again. Are you kidding me? She goes, adults are so much easier than kids. And she went from wanting to work, I forget what area in peds, to now working adult ICU and loves it.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm like, sometimes just don't be afraid to try something new, but also, persevere with what you really want, push for it too.
Yeah. You ask about that, and it's one of those hot button topics. I feel like everybody's got a different perspective. I've had an honored guest or two that were very adamant, like, no, you need to start in med surg. And again, let me preface this, and I've done it before, but this is not like minor leagues, major leagues, to use a baseball analogy. This is not like, well, you need to get, you got to take your licks in med surg and then you can go to one of the amazing areas of nursing. That's not it. Med surg is its own beast, and there's a reason why some people can't do it and why some people thrive in it and love it. And I can promise you, if you are an adult, or not even an adult, if you are a human being, and you're going to get sick, you're going to have surgery, you're going to need good med surg nurses.
Yes.
And so this is not a poo-poo on that in any way, shape, or form. And I think, unfortunately, that gets lost in translation, because some people use this as you need to go through the minors before you get to the majors. And I'll call BS on that every day, all day long. That being said, there are some practicum students that I've personally had over the years. And I always categorize them in one of three areas. And the lowest, of course, being, I don't know how you made it this far, and there is some serious remediation that needs to happen. Fortunately, I've never had anyone like that. There was one that was close, and I don't know, she terrified me with my peds onc population. But a lovely human being, all the things. I am not going to throw anybody under the bus, but that's the lowest tier. And if you've made it through nursing school and you're in practice, everybody here who's about to do practicum that hears this, they're going to be like, am I in that category? Oh, yeah, my gosh.
I know, thinking about it.
Yeah, no. I mean, for the most part, and again, nobody's trying to weed anybody out, but those that, and there are some that nursing isn't for them, or whatever the case may be, that they've been found out by now. That's not what I'm saying. That would be the lowest tier. The next tier then becomes not because med surg is the minor league, but because you are demonstrating by the end of your nursing school experience that you still aren't quite grasping certain concepts, or you need a little extra time to work on time management and that sort of thing without being burdened with all the extra stuff that comes with some specialties. So with that, that's the middle tier. That's that, you kind of need to get a little med surg under your belt if you're wanting to go to a specialty.
Yes.
Before you do that. And that's okay to live there as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Not looking down on anyone who fits that tier. And then there are others who are like, I really want to go into a specialty. And you're like, you know what? I feel like it's going to be stressful, 100%, but you're ready for it. And you know what I mean? You can do it and be ready for all the self-care things you're talking about, Izzie, all the things that, you know what I mean? Grasp all those and get those going. And in all of those tiers, you need all those things. I feel like I'm rambling about this one, but you do. And that's, there are others that say, no, everyone should have nursing school background, period. Or nursing school. Everyone does
Med-surg,
nursing school background. If you don't have nursing, well, that's the whole Florida thing from a few years ago, but we're going to leave that one, by the way. Oh, my gosh.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, that's a whole nother soapbox. But no, the whole idea of needing that med-surg background, and I get that perspective, but I'm firmly in the camp, kind of what you're saying, Izzie, if it's a specialty you want, it's a specialty you're passionate about, and you, you're willing to put in the pits in the stomach and the pain that goes with it, do it. And don't look back. And I could preach about that all day long. But yeah,
just to uplift our med surg buddies in our career, I saw a reel the other day that made a whole lot of sense to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like we need to package this and frame this. It was talking about med surg nurses, jack of all trades, master of everything, and I'm like, that sums it up pretty well, because they think of it, they have to be so good at every little thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that sums it up pretty dang well.
Well, and it spits in the face of the whole jack of all trades, master of none.
Yes.
And that's what you know what I mean? Like, no, med surg nurses are the jack of all trades, and and let's not even talk about their time management skills right now. Like,
oh my gosh.
I never being a med surg nurse myself. I've never been. And I honestly, that can at times put you at a disadvantage early on in your career. And, depending on who you are and all the things, again, like there's the argument, do you need to go? But med surg nurses, like the caseload they have, the patient load, the sheer amount of mind-boggling things that have to get done in a single shift. It's just my hat's off to every single med surg nurse that's out there. And I mean, but I feel like and this has been touched on too. We all, there are perceptions about every field, and misconceptions all along the way, up and down the line, no matter what field you're looking at, what specialty. And there's a hierarchy, right? Like, oh, but I'm not like them. They do this. And that's like, all that's a bunch of BS. Knock it off. You're a nurse. You chose your specialty. You went into a specialty. We all have our niche, and we all need to have our niche so that any of us that need that particular niche can get the best care we can get from the people who are passionate about that area.
Yep. I think, did you have a student on who, was she going into med surg or just really loved med surg?
Our very first one. Is like, where do you want to go? And she's like, I know that people say, but she's like, I love med surg. And I'm like, yes.
I was like, when she said, I was like, I feel like so many students need to hear this.
Yeah.
Because I think of how many, if you go to the hospital for this or that, oftentimes, unless you're incredibly critical, you're going to end up on a med surg floor, and you want a fantastic, badass nurse.
Yeah.
And I was just so pumped when I heard her say that. I was like, that is beautifully out of the ordinary and so appreciated.
Well, and on top of it, there's no coincidence why she was episode number, technically 1. I wanted to number my episode 0 in the hoster doesn't allow for zeros in episode numbers. So that's the only reason why I'm episode number 1. I would consider her my true first episode. But, and that's Morgan. We're throwing out Morgan out there. Good job, Morgan Johnson. Still making waves. But what I love is that I think this just thought came to me with the way you were talking about that. Like, if you think of any field of nursing, you can think of what they get poo-pooed on. Well, they're just med surg. They are basic. They're, or whatever the case may be. In postpartum. Oh, well, you guys just hold babies, feed babies, and maybe help someone breastfeed. I don't know. It's not intense. What's ED? ED, you're callous, you're cold, you get people out, and you punt people to the ICU. You know what I mean? Like, it's all the things. Like, there's negatives of perception. You can negatively perceive any area. So don't let any of that noise bother you, nursing student who's listening. you go for what your heart tells you to go for
Yes.
if you have that compulsion.
Yep. And just know, if you don't get hired on your dream unit and you have to take a left turn to someplace else, like, there's going to be a blessing in there in some fashion. Either that's a transition time before you go to your desired unit, or you may find that it was a unit you would have never considered, but my gosh, were you designed for it and you're thriving on it. And just be
Yes.
open to that stuff.
Yes.
Be open to those opportunities.
Yeah. And
Like you-
changing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, just, I mean, you might find that, oh my gosh, I love urology. I never would have thought I'd love urology of all places, or endo, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now we are nearing the end of your second episode. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Let's do the catch-all. Anything else you wanted to make sure that nursing student heard, or anything like that, as far as especially in regards to the first year or otherwise?
Can I speak to, advice for a new nurse coming to the field, or like a practicum student or a nursing student?
New nurse or practicum student, are you okay with Izzie giving you advice? Yeah, I think I see a lot of heads nodding out there. Let's go.
Cool. I've got a famous story that I tell all my students. I was working labor and delivery, and it was, change of shift, and my patient desperately wanted an epidural. So we set her up for the procedure, and we're in process of it. And while I'm doing that, it turns out that I've got a nursing student with me that day. Great. Totally awesome. And they come into the room, and they were really respectful of the sterile field and just kind of stood on the outskirts of it. What stuck out to me was this nursing student showed up with a grungy sweatshirt on over their scrubs, which, okay, not my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Also looking quite disheveled, like maybe they were out a little late the night before. So the professional appearance wasn't super great.
No, not on the list of what we'd consider acceptable at all.
Right. And I think eventually, anyway, it was not ideal. And and the nurse anesthetist doing the epidural placement, Mr. Brian Lee, he's fantastic. He's very wonderful. Let students put on masks and get side by side with him, and let them watch the epidural placement, and help inspire those nursing students to maybe go on to be nurse anesthetists, which, hallelujah, we need those in the world. And so he's allowing the student to watch very closely, safely, and in the midst of this, the student asks a question of, will this can paralyze her, right? And I was like, ooh. And I am a big advocate for, there are no dumb questions, but there are more ideal times to ask them. And so for our nursing students who are coming on the floor, and for our new nurses, like, please know, ask the questions, but sometimes the timing of them might be more appropriate than not. So as things went on, the epidural was placed, the patient laid down, she was stable. So I exited the room with the nursing student, and I just said, hey, your appearance is not professional. So I want you to remedy that. I said, and secondly, you had a great question. So there are some side effects to epidurals that are, these questions are worth having. These conversations are worth having. But as that patient is sitting up wanting an epidural, she's in pain. She's in the throes of labor. It sucks. Asking that question was not the best time or place for it. At the nurse's station, yes, let's have that conversation. Yeah. It was, if a patient's sitting up for an IV start and you're asking like, oh, is that going to hurt her? Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. But yeah, it's just hard. I want students to ask their questions, but I want them to know that there is a good time and place to ask all of them. So,
and that's huge. Yeah. That's huge. So I appreciate you calling that out, because that is a definite key thing. So write that down, everybody, in your lessons I've learned on feeding our young notebook. Oh, there's another product idea right there.
Hey, there you
anything
go.
I can get the brand out, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
this is the thing. I hate the
when did this
side
brainchild start, by the way?
Oh my goodness, this brainchild started earlier this year. It's a long story. One that is not maybe worth the time. I'll try. I'll do the short version. Maybe no. You know what? This is a good question for our Q&A episode. Okay. So those that if you didn't hear, what I'm really excited about is we're gonna. Izzie has voluntold Jen to then, and I'm my brain going a mile a minute thinking about these things while I'm listening to you, while I'm thinking about what I'm going to ask you. I think what we need to do is we're going to open it up to students. I mean, I do that at the end of every episode anyway. If you have a Q&A, throw it to this email address. And I have not received a single email yet, but that's because we're in our infancy. At the time of this recording, we'll have a dozen episodes on Wednesday. But other than that, released, I should say. And so, but what I can do is we'll reach out. I'm going to reach out to my former nursing students and just say, hey, a question or two that you can think of that you would want asked on the podcast. And then you and Jen brainstorm, and then I'll be the one in the hot seat.
This is going to be so thrilling.
Oh my gosh.
So thrilling. Isn't it fascinating how much is so universal? Like hospital to hospital,
Yes.
like the attitudes of nursing, the attitudes of the units, that like in nursing school, people's experiences, like, I mean, I don't want people to feel like, you're not unique, but like, just to let you know, like people are going through that too.
Yes.
You aren't alone. And
Yes.
I mean, I swear if we go into like a housewarming party, like you can pick out the nurses in the room. We all just migrate towards each other. We're our own strange breed. You can sniff each other out. My husband is so jealous of it. He goes, we went to a barbecue the other day where we knew one couple. And he's like, and by the end of it, you've got 5 women around you all telling them your birth story. He goes, people just migrate to nurses.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a thing. We can't help it. I guess we're beautifully charming. I don't know what it is. But then something I love to tell, because I could sit here and just tell you stories all day. Like we could talk about patients on the floor, all that. And and something I love to do with Jen Evans, again, to throw her name out there, get her a little bit bigger of an ego, is,
she's not as good as Kim Mitchell.
Yeah.
She's not as good as Kim Mitchell, but it's Jen Evans, so whatever.
And Kim Mitchell goes to brunch with me. Jen only goes to coffee with me. No big deal.
Come on, Jen, pick it up.
Right. But like one of the wonderful things about nursing is I think a lot of us are storytellers by nature. Like, how often are you at the nurse's station when like the unit's kind of calm and you start talking about this patient or that patient, or like you had the stable postpartum patient who all of a sudden had a prolapsed uterus, and in a fun way, we kind of one up each other, but our stories are so fun and enlightening and we learn from it. Like after on our unit, if we do a debriefing, even if we're not a part of it, I want to know what the nurses learned from their debriefing with their patient situation. And I don't know, you put 3 nurses in a room together. How many nursing stories are we going to tell? And we're going to like one up each other left and right. And it's going to be so joyful and fun. Nursing is this beautiful occupation and we need to celebrate each other. When you graduate and you pass your NCLEX and you get your first job, like, oh my gosh, you did it. And then you get to enter this beautifully unique field of like, and unfortunately, historically, we did eat our young and we're getting better at it. I think we're getting better at it. And something I really want to drill in is, even to this day, there are some units that are very sink or swim, or they do eat their young. Units are still in practice. I left one a few years ago. What I want to drill into people is that if you're unhappy on a unit, you look at it and do some self-reflecting. Are you unhappy with the medicine end of it? Or are you unhappy with the culture of the unit? And if so, feel free to switch. You don't get stuck. Don't leave the field just because the nurses are telling you figure it out on your own or look up that policy on your own. I don't know. I just feed our young. I got to retire someday and I want to know I'm leaving the field.
Help us.
Wonderful, right? I want to leave the field knowing there's good nurses behind me to keep these hospitals going. So.
Why did you start the podcast? It's simple. We're done. We need you guys to just help us, please. This is all self-serving. We don't give a rat's rear anymore. Like, I'm just kidding. All right. So thank you, Izzie. Yeah, no, and the common refrain too. It's interesting hearing Jen's episode and not hearing yours. Like, I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful, like, there's a very nice synergy. I'm going to have to call her and
be like, what did you say?
Okay, so to wrap things up, what were your 3 words you used to describe nursing school and why'd you pick them?
Oh my gosh, chaos, compassion, and community. Nursing school is chaos. It is hard, but get through it. Put your head down, nose in the book, grindstone, just do it. There's a pot of gold at the end in so many ways. Compassion, we get to be alongside people, again, not to plug Providence, but I'm going to plug Providence. Like, we get to be with people in their beautiful moments and their hard moments, and we can ease their way in ways that people in other professions don't get to. And kind of like what I was saying before, like nurses, we can sniff each other out. The community of nurses from even as a nursing student, I still can name all the girls in my first clinical group. Like there is a sense of community when you have survived nursing school that you're not going to find anywhere else. There's a sense of community with the first unit I ever worked on, and just a sense of community in nursing as a whole that, you don't get in every occupation. And like I said, we can sniff each other out. What I met you, and within like 2 minutes, we're having like an hour-long conversation, me, you, and your wife. And I'm like, I think I went to your guys' church over in Federal Way or Kent or whatever it was.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a small world. And I don't even know how I ended up at that church in the first place, but just like we sniff each other out. We are this beautiful community. We are these storytellers. We are these compassionate beings, and we will have chaos through nursing school. We're going to have a chaotic shift, but it's we still show up. So we still show up for each other. We show up for our community, and we show up for our patients. So
push through.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say push through, persevere, nursing student who's listening, because then you're part of this. You're already, in a way, part of this amazing community. It's a little bit different once you finally become a nurse. And it's not like it's this, you know what I mean, this exclusive club. You have to have your license to get in and that sort of thing. But there is a little bit something different once you finally, like Izzie said, get that first paycheck. You pass the NCLEX, you get that paycheck. You're like, man, I am in. Now the real fun begins, the real learning begins, but you have a sisterhood, a brotherhood of people who hopefully have your back and best interest in heart. So, all right. So if somebody, a nursing student in particular, Izzie, gets one thing from this episode, your episodes, plural, what would that be?
It gets better.
Oh, yeah.
It gets better, and don't let failure paralyze you. Don't let that anxiety paralyze you. Use it. Just
as
use
fuel.
it. Yeah.
As fuel. And one piece of advice for fellow instructors, teachers, professors, etc.
Oh gosh, don't forget what it was like to be in that seat. And if you were that student where nursing school was a breeze, good on you. But remember what it was like for your friend sitting in the seat next to you in nursing school who struggled.
Yeah.
And that student who struggled, who now is thriving, working on the floor, or who now themselves is a clinical instructor. Like, just, don't, and like we need to do with our patients, meet people where they're at. We don't always get to see people on the best days of their life. Sometimes we're seeing them in the hospital on the worst days of their life. And just be aware of where people are at.
In your classroom on that day.
Yep.
Or in your clinical.
And to that struggling nursing student, message me. We'll go out to coffee. We'll vent about nursing school. It gets better, I promise.
Boom! Truth bombs being dropped today by someone who wasn't even born. How does it get better than that? I'm living my best life. That's all there is to it. Izzie, thank you so much for.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I just have had an amazing time. Like I said, I wish I could do this all day with everybody because there's just so much to share. Like you said, I love that. We're storytellers. We are. And good luck.
Maybe I'll get you and Jen to come to my class together. Oh gosh, that'd be amazing.
It would either be amazing.
We would enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the three of us will have a great time. I wonder how many students would drop out or withdraw when we're done just from the sheer craziness. No, I'm just kidding. It would be an absolute blast. I would love it.
Aww.
All right. Well, thank you, Izzie. And yeah, I look forward to your to helping with that class on spirituality. Absolutely. That is an honor. You don't have to beg me. You know that. So, all right. Take care. Have a lovely afternoon, friend.
Thank you, sir.
Here's what's happening on the next episode of Feeding Our Young.
It's the most difficult in everything. I mean, going into a test, if you don't believe you're going to do well, I guarantee you it's not going to go well for you. Like, you have to believe in everything you do that you are capable of doing it. Running has taught me this. You can go out and say, I'm going to go run Bloomsday. But if you don't believe you can do it, you're not going to finish. And running has definitely taught me that. Nursing school has taught me that when I walk into an exam, I go in there with my head held high, knowing I have done everything I possibly can. There's nothing more I could have done. And I'm perfectly capable of doing this. I'm perfectly capable of answering whatever they throw at me. And sometimes it's wild. So if you don't have that belief in yourself, you're setting yourself up to not do well. And that was a huge lesson coming out of this summer for me, was you have to believe you're capable of doing it.
Did you like today's episode of Feeding Our Young? Let today's honored guest know by emailing us at thanks@feedingouryoung.org. Also, if you are a nursing student, nurse, or a nursing instructor and would like to be featured on a future episode, please email us a few details about yourself at the very special email address mystory@feedingouryoung.org. If you have a question you would like addressed in a future Q&A episode, please send it to q@feedingouryoung.org. For all other inquiries, please email us at info@feedingouryoung.org or text us at area code 509-ALL-THEM, 509-255-8436. We're so excited to have you return to hear our next honored guest. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Feeding Our Young LLC. Again, that's username Feeding Our Young LLC. Until next time, be encouraged and go find someone to encourage today.